What's up, you YouTubers? It's HarpyHunter89 and the voices in my head coming at you from the Duelist Den. And as we all know, the link mechanic is right around the corner. Now, over in the OCG, the link mechanic did not get a very warm welcome and is looking like that is the same thing that's going to happen here in the TCG. Now, in the OCG, what started happening was players started using older decks that did not require the use of the extra deck, just so they did not have to use the link mechanic to run a deck that was competitive. And it seems like that may be happening here in the TCG as well when the link mechanic is released. So for today, I thought I'd do a top 10 list of decks and archetypes that could survive through the link format. So hit that intro. Starting off this list, we have the Ojamas. Now, the Ojamas got a lot of hype when the link mechanic was first announced, as people thought you could use the Ojama Knight and Ojama King effects to lock out your opponent's link monster zone. Now, a ruling has been announced since then stating the effects such as Ojama Knight and Ojama King can only be used on main monster zones. That should not be a detriment to build this deck, as you can still target the zones that are linked with your opponent's link monsters. Now, as they are a fusion-based deck, you will more than likely only ever get one of your fusion monsters out at a time, unless you, of course, run link monsters in the deck. But you can still gain access to your fusion monster through effects that allow you to search out polymerization or gain polymerization back from your graveyard, such as Fusion Sage and Fusion Recycling Plant and things like that. Now, the Ojamas are also level 2 beast types, so you can easily search out your Ojamas with cards such as Ayers Rock Sunrise and the Baby Raccoon cards. So making this deck is not a total impossibility. It is a very viable option that you could pursue. Number 9 goes to Light Sworns. Now, a lot of people may think, well, Light Sworns aren't all that good now that Grass Looks Greener got hit. But you have to remember, Light Sworns were still a very, very good deck even before that Grass Looks Greener even came out. They have the ability to mill through their deck like no tomorrow, and although they do have the ability to use the extra deck, they don't primarily need it, as all you need to do is get Judgment Dragon out on the field and blow up everything else that's on the field. Furthermore, the Light Sworn archetype is getting new support with the Twilight Sworn cards, so that could make the deck even more viable in this upcoming meta. For number 8, we have Zodiacs. Now, Zodiacs may be an Xyz-based archetype, but you also have to remember that Zodiacs can go off with just one Xyz monster on the field a lot of the times. Now, it is better if you can get 2 of them out on the field, but they really only need one Xyz monster on the field to really pop off and to go through a lot of their combos. Furthermore, with the ability to continuously attach materials via other effects to that one Xyz monster, the Zodiac monsters can get immensely powerful and continuously just build up their strength and build up their strength and build up their strength until they can overcome pretty much any monster your opponent has on the field. At number 7, we have Paleozoic Frogs. Now, while Paleozoic Frogs do rely heavily on summoning out their Totally Awesomes and other rank 2 Xyz monsters, one thing you need to remember about the Paleozoics and the Frogs is that they are very good at special summoning monsters to the field multiple times in the same turn without the use of a pendulum mechanic or anything else. It is just with their own built-in effects. Now, the Frogs do that by summoning other Frogs, and the Paleozoics do that by summoning their Paleozoic trap monsters from the graveyard. Now, with this function in the deck, you can easily incorporate a couple of link monsters into your extra deck so that you can have access to multiple zones to go into your Xyz plays. At the number 6 spot, we have Necroz. Now, Necroz is a ritual-based deck, so the link mechanic will not affect them at all. Furthermore, they have very, very powerful plays with cards such as Necroz of Trishula, Necroz of Colossus, things like that. Now, the downside is that a couple of the cards for this deck are limited, and the Jin Lock is completely out of the question because that card is banned, but it is still a very, very powerful deck, and it is still a very, very fast deck. So for the Link format, this deck could actually see a rise in power again. Furthermore, we do have another ban that's coming out before Links hit the TCG, so some of the Necroz cards that are limited could actually come off of limited status and maybe go to semi-limited or completely unlimited altogether. At number 5, we have Gredos. Now, Gredos are a very, very underrated deck. They do have very, very powerful plays. What Gredos do is they essentially equip themselves to your opponent's monsters and allow you to take control of them and then use your opponent's monsters against them. Now, this is a very, very underrated mechanic, and it's one that a lot of people just usually don't see coming until it's too late. Now, the best way to use Gredos is combining them with Kaijus. That way you can get around anti-targeting effects. But still, the Gredos are still very, very powerful. And while the Gredos do have access to Synchro Summons and Xyz Summons, it's not really necessary for the primary function of the deck. For the number 4 spot, we have another underappreciated deck, and that is Despots. Now, the Despots do utilize the pendulum mechanic a little bit, primarily just to get cards such as Despots 5 through 8 back out onto the field after they've been destroyed on the field. But with the ability to special summon multiple monsters in a turn without the pendulum mechanic, it would be very, very easy for Despots to incorporate 2, maybe 3 Link monsters into their extra deck just so they can get those pendulum summons off when they need them. At the number 3 spot, we have a deck that just flat out refuses in any way to utilize the extra deck, and that is Monarchs. Now, Monarchs can easily search through their deck for any card that they need. In addition to that, they can shut down your opponent from using their extra deck, and they can go into multiple normal summons per turn just with their own built-in cards. So Monarchs being run during the Link format is not really all that crazy of an idea, especially since they can go into very powerful plays and they can shut down the Link mechanic altogether for your opponent. Taking the number 2 spot is another deck that is not reliant on the extra deck whatsoever, and that is Cosmos. Now, Cosmos can go off really, really easily. They have really fast plays. They can special summon monsters on your opponent's turn really easily with their low-level monsters, and then if their high-level monsters are destroyed on the field, you can banish them to special summon the lower ones from the hand or deck. So this deck is just very, very viable, and this is one of the go-to decks that we see over in the OCG that is taking a lot of the top spots because they don't rely on the extra deck like I said earlier, and they can just get around the Link mechanic really, really easily. And the only reason I put these at number 2 is because some of their key cards are actually at limited status on the ban list. At the number 1 spot, we have True King, True Dracos. Now, True King, True Dracos, in my opinion, is a deck that could rival even that of the Dragon Rulers, which many believe is the most powerful deck to ever come out of this game. Now, True King, True Dracos can easily special summon multiple times in the same turn. With cards like Ultimate Tyranno, they can gain multiple attacks off in a turn and deal burn damage off of those attacks. With the use of King of Calamities, they can negate pretty much any effect your opponent has or any monster effect your opponent has out on the field at any given time. And while yes, King of Calamities is an Xyz monster, you really only ever see one extra deck monster out on the field at a time with this deck. So utilizing just that one extra deck zone is not really a problem for this deck, because the majority of the rest of their monsters are main deck monsters. So this actually could be the dominating deck for the Link era. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments in the section below. And make sure you check out the Duelist Den Facebook page for updates on the channel. And remember that I am doing a Maximum Crisis Pack giveaway on July 4th. As long as I have 100 subscribers to my channel, I will be giving away 5 packs of Maximum Crisis on July 4th. So help me get the subscriber count up to 100, and stay tuned for that pack giveaway. And until next time, this is Harpy Hunter 89 and the voices in my head, signing off.
Take a shot at me.